you have talked about customer centricity. It's one of the fields that you specialize in. How specifically does AI or can AI be utilized to enhance customer centricity? It would be great if you could share some examples of successful AI utilization, which actually made a significant difference, improvements in the customer experience.
I think the main example is what the big tech companies, the social platforms, have been doing the last 5 years. You can have an opinion on that, but hey, they put the customer first. They collect as much data as possible. They use all kind of algorithms in order to create their view on the ultimate customer centricity. It is already there. Every time we use internet, we are being served as a customer, you can say. I think the good part is that more and more people are aware that this is happening. I think a very good part as well, especially here in the European Union, is there's much more regulation now, implying that, hey, you cannot do that automatically. You have to inform the customer what data you're using. You have to inform them what kind of functions and algorithms you're using. Customers, civilians should be in control of their own data. If they want to remove it, hey, you have to comply to that. They have the right to be forgotten. I like that language as well. So all data have to be able to remove as well. But I think the best example, and best is according to your opinion. I'm looking from a European point of view, and I think the European trends are very much fitting with my view that people have to take care, have to be in charge of their own data, and have to be give consent first before a company starts using the data and all kind of algorithms. But you cannot deny that it has been very customer-centric, these trends. Well, what we see furthermore is a further development of chatbots. I think the first generation were not so brilliant. I don't speak many people who are really impressed by what chatbots could do in the past. They never understand your question. They're only trained on the frequently asked questions, and that's it. but we're really seeing progress there as well. And I think one of the key things in there is that chatbots should be humanized a bit more in their way of interaction. They should, for example, not be scripted, asking the same questions in a certain order all the time. They should be able to ask only relevant questions. They should look more for the intention of the person asking the question than just taking the literal form of that. I think we're making progress there already. Second generation and third will be way better than before. And what is also happening now is that it's not only using question and answer games, but using the data available of the customer already in the conversation, which will definitely make it more personal. If you would ask me, are there good examples? I think they're coming up right now. There's some company, and that is especially the companies that are getting more and more positive results by their customer using these chatbots or digital assistants as well. Talking about digital assistants, the employees of companies are more and more assisted by digital assistants. That started already in the call center, giving all available information on the customer, looking at the phone calls that had been made before. You're actually describing some of these situations in your book as well. But we're adding much more and more knowledge then on this customer and on what he's demanding or asking and what the answer could be and how it could be served. And AI is being integrated in that as well, which makes it more intelligent, more clever, more customer-centric. That is good. And we're doing it also in back office employees right now. It's not about automating their work, but kind of giving them the knowledge to handle a complex case file that has to be looked at. And there is already a lot of companies are really seeing the power of that, having positive business cases, having positive feedback. So this is really on the breakthrough side now. And that is also customer centricity because, for example, take the larger government organizations in the Netherlands, for example, the tax administration. they have to handle all kind of different taxes for millions of citizens using traditional IT systems. Well, having said that, we all know that traditional IT systems can only go so far. Maybe 50% of all the law and regulations that should be applied by traditional IT can be applied with these rule-based systems, which also means that there's 50% of law and regulation that cannot be handled by these systems. What we're looking at with AI is all kind of possibilities to kind of higher this figure. How can we implement law and regulation that cannot be put into traditional systems because it's subjective, it's ambiguous, it's a kind of it's not a standard situation, but a more complex situation. It might be a situation where some kind of judge did a judgment very specific, but hey, from now on, that should be applied to all cases. Mm-hmm. So they cannot handle it with traditional IT, and with AI, we are very much more capable of doing, you could even say, doing justice to everybody's personal individual situation. Mm-hmm. Assisting, in this case, the tax worker in there. And these cases are really coming up now as well. Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah.
That generation of chatbot or digital assistant, which is capable of processing, analyzing, loading up your customer data before it even begins speaking with you, and then having a conversation with you that is unique to you, to how it has assessed you as a customer based on your profile. Where are we with that? How common is that? Is that something still coming soon, or have you seen that in projects yet?
I see it very often in the marketing of companies providing these services. According to me, there are some good examples, but only partially. It's not the integral solution as you're just describing. But this is the coming 2 years. This will come into existence, definitely. Yeah.
This will be the new norm. It makes perfect sense. I mean, the data is there. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And then in combination with, for example, that a customer should give consent before, that he can also make it transparent, that he can also see what has been done, what data has been used, that he can influence that as well. Mm-hmm. Actually, this kind of transparency was already required over here with the traditional IT systems. And right. You could question the number of companies that are really compliant. But it's even stronger now with this AI regulation and AI Act. So it's interesting to see, and I think it's a very good movement as well. Explainable, transparent.
And then, of course, the AI is able to continue to learn about you as an individual customer based on its interactions with you. If you're not happy with its first conversation, it'll try to improve based on however it collects feedback, or based on how it performs facial recognitions of your expressions, perhaps. But that whole learning process, I think, once this does become the norm, that will continue to evolve and improve until we reach a point where we are talking with a customer service representative, and it may be hard to distinguish whether it is human or AI, because it is such a personalized experience that we're receiving from that.
Yeah, and technically this will definitely become possible the coming years. And that is probably also a very valid reason to start thinking, okay, how far do we want to go? Moral, ethical AI, explainability. The AI Act in Europe is also stating that if you have, for example, a voice interface, a person should be able to distinguish the fact that he's talking to a normal human, either to a robot voice. So, I mean, this is a very fast-moving domain of law and regulation as well, and it's all about people trying to find, okay, hey, we don't regulate because we want to regulate, but we have to find a balance in, well, maybe even the fundamental rights of humans versus how do we want to implement technology.
Yeah. Despite all the potential of the technology and all the advancements we can build with it, will always be constrained to the parameters of regulation and law within different regions. I wonder if we'll reach a point where there'll be a requirement to give the customer the ability to hit a reset button if they're not happy with its relationship with the AI. Perhaps the AI is not effective for them, or the customer doesn't like the tone of the AI. It'll have the right to click a reset button and start fresh. Erase my data, forget about me, and now process me for who I am as of now. You know,
if we had to bet on that, I would go along with you. Yeah, I think that point might be reached at a certain yeah. Yeah.
So
it is a very interesting interesting movement, because we're now at a stage that technology is very powerful. So it's really time to think how we want to use technology for human reasons, for humanity, and not even talking about warfare, for example, because that is also a very valid discussion. And this feedback learning that you were describing, the systems we're making now, yeah, they could be used feedback learning from customer experience. What we're doing mostly is to use the subject matter experts for feedback learning to make the content, the knowledge base better, as you can say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because it's not just the AI learning on its own. We can have data scientists assess feedback it collects, and they can shape how it learns from it. And that's an important part of this. You know, not everything has to be carried out autonomously, or probably shouldn't be, right? So yeah, that factors into this, because the organization may have certain business objectives that may determine how it augments the AI. It might not just be a pure AI customer relationship.
No, that's why we very much believe in this knowledge graph technology, because it's still a way of modeling domain knowledge in order to use it on AI.
Mm-hmm.
You might have heard the last week or two, it is buzzing around the internet on the new OpenAI application called ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
It is so powerful to generate even the works for students, to generate a little text that is needed, to generate answers, to generate your CV if you want. Yeah, it's very powerful. It's one of those large language models technology, but it cannot do everything.
Mm-hmm.
If it is trained, it will be trained on, well, you could say the common knowledge on the internet available, and it will remain there. There's no way you can do explainable AI with it. So yeah, it is good in a certain function. And when you look at an AI solution as a whole, and you're kind of constructing it with all kind of components, you could definitely find a use for this kind of component as well. But it's not everything. It's not part of the whole solution. That actually. So this is, yeah. But this ChatGPT is so powerful now that the whole world is buzzing on the, yeah.
Sorry. So let's talk a bit about the concepts behind AI. Those concepts that you consider important specifically to digital transformation, those that influence how you carry out a digital transformation. How would you categorize those? How would you prioritize those?
Yeah, I think one or the first two or three I would mention, we already discussed. On number one, actually, is the huge potential of AI. So potential that you really have to look at ethical aspects as well. As morale, it's sometimes called human AI. It's like looking, hey, can we find it and can we implement it in such a way that it supports what we find important in our society? It might even be in law and regulation. I would definitely put that on number one. Number two is kind of closely related, because it's the influence of law and regulation. Every AI project we're doing here in Europe has to kind of show that it is compliant with privacy regulation, the new AI Act coming up. And you could say that is restrictive, but you can also turn it around and say it offers new possibilities as well, new products and services. If you're the first one who is compliant with all these new law and regulation, you might have an advantage on your competition in the kind of services you're providing. So I put that on number two. And hey, juridical knowledge in the IT world is not common. It was not already in the traditional IT world. There's not a lot of people who can make this bridge between what does law and regulation say and what does it mean for the architecture of my AI solution? So this is really something companies should look at or search for advice, I think. Nobody wants to become an article on the front page that you discriminated within your AI solutions.
Right.
The third one, we also mentioned it already. I would state that your AI really needs architecture. Sorry. Should not keep it a black box, but should open it and look at the contents and see how you want to implement it. What kind of components, what kind of functions. There's always choices to be made. I gave this example like, hey, we can train one model on theoretical knowledge. We can train another model on all the applied knowledge that is in your databases. We can just show the two results. We can show a difference. We can think how we can make a feedback loop using your subject matter experts, etc., etc. You should open it up. And then you have the best possibilities to also figure out digital transformation, how it can influence your products, services, processes, even your employees, your place in the ecosystem, etc., etc. I think you need to open it up in order to do really think out your digital transformation there. I'd like to mention data as well. Data is fascinating because I think the last 10, 15 years we were talking about big data, and then we said, okay, big data is one thing, but data quality is very important as well. I think there's a more important dimension now, already very traditional, but it's about the meaning of data, semantics. For years and years, we've been building these traditional IT systems from a paradigm that, hey, if you do a proper analysis and a proper data model, you can describe very precisely what each element in your database means. Well, wake up, you can't. We're talking about natural language here. Context is important. People use words differently. The same word might have completely different meaning in another context.
Right.
There's a kind of internal joke at the Dutch tax administration that they have the word income. Okay, normally for a tax administration, but they have 71 different meanings of the word income. Each time slightly different, very often connected to law and regulation. I think the semantics and the meaning of data, next to quality of data, will really become more and more important. And hey, there's new technologies that you can use to model this as well. The whole semantic web movement gave us the linked data technology. OWL, we can use this in knowledge graph technology. That's actually what Google is doing as well. So we have new means in order also to handle the differences in the meaning of data, which is maybe what I find most fascinating about this whole natural language processing movement. And rethinking this is also rethinking, okay, how do we implement it? What value can we get from that? If we look at this kind of engine, would it even create new products and services in that as well? In combination with ownerships of data, much more the individual taking in charge. I think this concept, you already see it back in identity wallets, or wallets in which persons can upload attributes that have been delivered by, for example, also government databases. So they are certified, they are in your wallet, and you're the one who decides how to use them. They're also implemented with the proper semantics. So everybody that uses it can find exactly what it means, even if there's different contexts of that. I find this fascinating, and I think this is really going to be a movement also for companies to think about how they can use it. It also means that if you're an owner of the data, or at least if you have the right to own the data, and it might be for a certain period of time until the real owner says, no, delete me, like you said, the delete button earlier on. If you have the right to own this data and you have the right to put functionality on top, that gives opportunities to live as products and services. And this is a whole new paradigm that is, I think it's going quick now already. 10 years ago, everybody said, like, forget it, privacy, internet, your data are everywhere. This has completely changed into this kind of new paradigm. I think this is a couple of the most important things right now that are also very much used in AI and can be very much used for digital transformation purposes as well.